not specifically that one, but I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, we are being live streamed now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of Beef, Bacon, and Eggs. I am joined by brothers Asad Patel, Imam from North Carolina. He's been on the show before. Please subscribe to Brother Asad's YouTube channel, The Straight Path Podcast. We also have Brother Michael coming to us from the Northwest Territories. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he's got the Aurora Borealis in the background. So, assalamu alaikum, brothers. How are you doing, Asad? Good?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Wa alaikum salam. I'm doing well. How about yourself up in Canada?
It's not below zero yet, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
So we're still above the freezing mark. And Brother Michael, how are you doing? Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing absolutely just great.
That's good. Good. So, we had some time to chat, before we went live. But, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is the idea of balancing, social media with spirituality. So, just in general, I mean, you were living in 2023. The age of social media is that you're just bombarded with information day in and day out. And it's not like the early 2000s where you had to go on your computer and search the internet. Now everyone has an iPhone where you can access information from the media 24/7. So whether or not that information is false or true or who's debunking it, it can result in a lot of brain overload. As we know, everyone has seen what's going on in the world today. There's an atrocities going on as we speak in Gaza, in Palestine. First and foremost, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aid our brothers and sisters in Palestine and all over the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them peace, security, and cover. May Allah, give electricity and water and food back to Gaza, and may Allah give us, give the Muslims a victory in this regard. But it's really just a terrible situation, and you feel that you want to, there's a very important hadith that that the Muslims are like one body. When one part of the body is sick, then the whole body becomes sick. So that's definitely something that that we should feel. And we, when we see Muslim suffering across the world, it really has an effect on us. And there's also that kind of this idea of information overload too. And Asad was going to let Asad speak about this in a couple of seconds, but it doesn't get to a point where it has the that social media has the opposite of its intended effect, and you want to feel for your brothers and sisters, but at a certain point, at the same time, you don't want to become numb, and as a result, it can not only affect your iman, but also be, I guess, in a way, be counterproductive. And we don't want to come off as callous. We don't want to sound like we don't care. But at the same time, is the human capacity really designed, for something like this? So I'll let you spit off on that, Asad. How do we find, as Muslims, how do we find, how do we react to that? How do we, we're living in a bombardment of an information age. What's the best way forward for us as Muslims? So, it doesn't affect our spirituality, and then we keep in mind the suffering of all of our brothers and sisters there. I'll let you go ahead, Asad. You have the floor.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين صدق الله العظيم. So inshallah, we'll start off with the Quranic recitation. Rob normally does that. Today I'll do it. O you who believe, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it be against yourselves or parents or relatives. So, the topic of discussion today, and what's been going on all around the interweb is basically what's going on, what can we do? And one of the things which people have been doing, subhanAllah, it's a good thing. And what Rob alluded to and what Brother Michael also spoke about beforehand, we were having a short discussion where I was talking about how does it affect us, right, on a heart basis. And I think what was understood was something a little bit different, but it's also true that, all this social media, can we take it, right? And how does it affect us, right? Honestly speaking, it's still very new. I don't think they have enough research. I don't think they have had enough time to do research to, look into doom scrolling. Doom scrolling can be good and bad. And they have those videos on Instagram where they have advertisements where they're like, don't do doom scrolling, do micro learning, right? Stuff like that. So right now, when you open up your Instagram or Facebook or whatever, Instagram more so because when you go through the stories, it's just bam, 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 bam. And everybody's sharing the same things, right? And I've been seeing some like really sad videos and images, and they're at the same time, they're very terrifying and making you sad, where there's little babies who have died and stuff like that from, the atrocities which are happening in the Gaza Strip. And so the thing about it is there's multiple aspects to this. One is all of this, which is happening and is being shared. It's good as being shared. A lot of people who didn't know about this are learning about this. There was actually a guy, Ron DeSantis, was visiting a shop, the governor of Florida, who was trying to run for president. He was standing in a shop, and there was a white individual who got very upset at him. And he said that you're not covering the atrocities which are happening in Gaza. And this guy went at him. And he was, doing the same company line. And then the guy says to him, you had my vote before, you don't have my vote now. You lost my vote, right? So because of this, we get to see this. We get to watch a lot of like Jewish theologians, a lot of Jewish luminaries, a lot of Jewish rabbis who are speaking out against this, right? Which we wouldn't have seen 10, 20 years ago. Something similar would have happened. We wouldn't have had any idea. So there's a lot of good from it, right? But at the same time, what is the human capacity to be able to absorb all of this, take it and turn it into something positive, or either become absolutely depressed and go into a corner, right? So like I've been seeing this, and yesterday when I gave Jummah, I spoke about, when we see what's happening in Afghanistan, the 2 earthquakes in 1 week, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, like how does this affect us? How does it affect our heart? That if we've wavered away from the deen, if we're far from the deen, is it from our faith? Is it bringing us back in? Or does it have no effect? Is everything status quo, right? When somebody does a fundraiser, right? Like I work in fundraising for Muslim causes. When somebody works in fundraising, right? What is the cause for, right? How is the event set up, right? We were doing an event recently, and most of the events we've been doing recently, a lot of our speakers have been refusing to take an honorarium. They've been saying just pay us for like the ticket in the hotel, so our costs are covered, and don't give us honorarium, right? Because the cause is more important. And these are like high level speakers. Like these are guys who people would pay, so there's a difference. If a masjid calls them for like an event or something like that, they'll generally take the money because, communities are wanting to pay and spend money. So they're like, why not spend money on this, right? And they need to run their house. They're traveling a lot. It's understandable. But for fundraising, a lot of the guys, they decline taking an honorarium because they're like, it's more important that the cause gets the money. So they're declining it because they're even connected to the cause, right? So we're seeing this in fundraising, that, people are declining these things and people are really emotionally invested, right? But at the same time, aside from fundraising, how is it affecting us, right? Are we becoming, so there's a fundraiser. What I was actually trying to talk about is there's a fundraiser which is happening for some other cause. It's in 3 hours from me. It's in the same state. And they're bringing in celebrities, from their culture, and it's more of like a show than anything. And I'm like, that's not really the purpose of a fundraiser. It's not, you're not supposed to have like a stage drama or something going on. What is the purpose? What is the cause? So when we see all of these things, how does it affect us? How does it affect our heart? And how does it make a difference on our heart? And we feel more we feel more to do more to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if something like this happened, how would I react? That you see these videos of these people, like this old man in Afghanistan, he lost 11 people of his house, right? 11 people. And he's close to like 78 years old. And he's like, basically tawakkal ala Allah, that's what he's saying. These people in Palestine, they lose everybody. Tawakkal ala Allah, right? To have that faith. Do we have that faith in the United States if something like that happened? Like if everybody in my family passed away, would I be able to do that? Or would I completely melt because, my religious stance isn't as strong as these people who don't have the same level of like education, maybe. I'm not saying they're uneducated, but like the opportunities for education, they don't have it the same way we do. To have the same dietary freedoms, they don't have that. To have the same freedom to move around, right? If I wanted to get on a plane and go visit Rob tomorrow, nobody could stop me. I could get on a plane, buy a $300-$400 ticket, go visit him and come back, and nobody could stop me. These people right now where they're like, oh, from North Gaza, move to South Gaza, which is ridiculous unto itself, which is like this big, right? They're like, move from north to south, and they're moving and they're getting bombed as they're moving, right? And aside from that, moving 1 million people moving within this tiny frame of land from the north to the south, where they're already like smushed in like sardines. Like, if we had to do that, would we be able to, and would we be able to maintain our faith? That's my main thing, is how does it affect us spiritually? I'm always about spirituality, and using the spirituality to channel it to like a physical strength, and become a stronger Muslim, become a Muslim who spends more time worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because spirituality can only give you so much, because then obviously you have to channel it to like a physical strength to be able to actually pray. So that's just my thing, is like, is it affecting us? And all the social media, are we able to even cope with it? Because I feel like a lot of people in the next few weeks are going to completely break down, because the sort of like the content that's out there right now is so terrifying, so scary, so saddening, right? I don't think people can handle it anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you, Asad. It's yeah, I mean, there's you want to be able to channel it in a good way, and you want to make this like event that's not even happening to us, to result in an increase in our iman, but that's a struggle in and of itself. Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, probably there are people who are handling this situation better, this genocidal, this just like like an actual ethno state, and like just apartheid situation. People are actually handling this better, possibly better than some of us in the West are, on our 4K televisions. And what is this a metaphor for? I mean, for our weakness in this situation. But I think and we're upset what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and not all that we're hearing is even right. We don't even really know what's happening. The journalists are being attacked, basically. It's like, forget about it. It's like, what's next is going to be like AI generated, supposedly news reports. And so, well, I mean, to come back to media, though, I think that maybe one important lesson is to compare the technology that we have today with the technology that we've had for the last, well, you could say 1400 years, but you could also say about like 300,000 years. So like, what kind of technology are humans really accustomed to? And because we're not really that different than our ancestors for the most part. And so one of the technologies that we have had forever is our ability to ask Allah to protect everyone from the Ummah and to secure the safety of everyone. But it's not been a technology for us to watch 4K, 8K images of of death and destruction. I mean, that's one side of it, but also at the other side of it, people have lived through suffering, in history, and I think inshallah people will come through this, and I think we should be optimistic as well. And those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Yeah, Allah's deen and his book will be victorious. I mean, this is a guarantee from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it can be overwhelming to see everything that's going on in the news, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, the public opinion is changing, I think, and I think Asad, we were talking about this a little bit off screen, that the media can try to spin it as best as they can, but I think people can see that for several decades about various different issues that their government has been lying to them. And whether that's COVID or Ukraine or I mean, you can go on down the line of different lists of world events. I mean, people in the West really get the impression, by and large, that their government does not like them, does not care about them. And when the government is telling you support Group X, no matter what the issue is, I think Westerners now had this knee-jerk reaction that no, I'm not gonna believe in that. So, I do think that this is not like 2003 or 20 years ago when I first converted, when you still have this very large anti-Islam sentiment. I really think that if you look at even recent polling before this event happened, especially with the younger generation, they're really starting to go in favor of the Muslim side, and I think that's difficult to show some Muslims, because again, I can understand where they're coming from, because even these people, they don't have any kind of a media outlet themselves. The media is only controlled by one side, so we don't see the other side. We don't see the side of Westerners. They don't have like a collective voice to say we don't believe in these things. We actually think that the Palestinians are the ones who are just suffering on like totally suffering on their end, and it's a completely lopsided situation. So I do think that we should take the positive of that the tide is turning, but at times it can be difficult to try to convince some Muslims that that's the case. So I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, they only see one side of the media story, but still, though, I still honestly think that like we're talking about things we can positively do. I think that speaking to people on the ground, like you said about that one person's not going to vote for DeSantis, I think that's a positive thing that we can do, even if it's just one person, presenting the other side of the story. I think that is something that's definitely a positive, that is also productive. And also, like, I think that in a way we should, like if you look at a tiny organization like Islam for Europeans, we should never have the approach that we shouldn't talk about things that are affecting issues faced by converts or growing convert communities from the ground up, because I mean it's not a zero-sum game, because these convert communities, once you convert to Islam, you feel that feeling much more strongly that, when people are suffering in the ummah, like that affects you as well. Like you're not independent and alone, and by having a strong community of converts, that's what we should be focusing on. Not because we're trying to center our own issues, but because we want to provide something positive to this ummah. So I really think that that's the position we should be taking. Are there going to be detractors that are saying, why are you not focusing on what's going on, whether that's Gaza or in Pakistan? No, we do care about these things, and that's why I had Brother Assad on to talk about what's going on with Imran Khan. I mean, we do care about what's going on in the world. It's just that we're not the experts, and we don't want to say things that we don't have the expertise on, because we're not Pakistani. I've never been to Pakistan, and it's not my field of expertise. But I can see very clearly that that there is an impression going on.
Rob had me on because Imran Khan's kids are half European, so he was pulling that angle. So, but no, one of the things which we spoke about off camera, which is a lot of European descendant shuyukh who are converts themselves within the last 20, 30 years, when they become Muslim, not just talking about the layman, white or European-based Muslim in the West, right? Talking about the shuyukh, right? Because they're vocal, they're community leaders. I didn't mean to cut you off, Rob.
No, go ahead.
But what's it called? But they're speaking out. Like I've been seeing a lot of the posts from Imam Sohaib Webb, and his poster, the posts he's sharing are really like very knowledge giving, like they're very deep, right? And I've been having a few conversations with him the last few weeks, and we've gotten to know each other really well over the phone. And just he's a very nice, very generous individual who has very good akhlaq, while talking with him, right? And he's hurt by this, right? And then you have locally Imam John. He runs a masjid up here. He's been talking about it. They had a program Wednesday or Thursday night. Then they had a viewing of the movie Tantura yesterday. And his Jummas he gave about the same cause. You have Sheikh Joe Bradford. You have Imam Tom, who made very good points. And I think I'll send you the video, link it into this description of this, where he talks about, you don't judge the table manners of a starving person. And the analogy he makes using that, then you have so many shuyukh in the West now who are European based, descendants of Europeans who may have converted during their lifetime, or who may be children of converts, and they're speaking out about this. I'm sure Sheikh Hamza Yusuf probably gave a Jummah about it, whatever. All of these shuyukh, they're talking about it, but they come from a sphere where talking about this wasn't always the right thing to do. The first thing everybody would generally say was like, Israel has the right to defend themselves, and that's it. But they're coming from these spheres where they're saying this, and they're probably being met with like resistance to even saying this in front of their family. I was talking to one of the brothers who was in the chat, and he was we were having a chat about this, and I was telling him about a few of my customers at the store. When we started talking about this topic, they're like, okay, you teach us about the topic. And when we went over it, they're like, okay, it makes sense, because there's a lot of holes in the story. It's like Swiss cheese. Now those holes are being filled in, they're being plugged in, and the story makes a lot more sense. So their worldview has changed a little bit. And I was talking with that brother, and the brother was like, my family is asking me to condemn the act that was done by the organization. And he's like, I'm like, okay, if they killed innocents or civilians and stuff like that, as a Muslim, we'll always say that it's wrong, right? It's like, but what does your condemnation do for anybody? As a Muslim individual, your condemnation to your family, what difference will it make in their life? You're just going to acknowledge something bad happened. And I think all Muslims, Muhammad Hijab, who did he go on Piers Morgan yesterday?
Not yet. He's scheduled to be on there.
Okay, so he's supposed to go on there. There have been, the spokesperson for the PLO, or the ambassador for Palestine to the UK. When they asked him, they keep asking him, and he's like, anybody, any innocent that gets killed, any elderly, any woman, any child that gets killed, it's wrong. We're not saying it's not wrong. And they're like, but look at the whole situation. So the whole situation leads us back to our European-based shuyukh also speaking out against it. And something you said, and all of us have said, I think, is when anybody becomes Muslim, right? Any issue that affects Muslims affects all Muslims. So when these white shuyukh are speaking out, it's not because they have any sort of cultural affiliation. They don't have any sort of ethnic affiliation. They don't have anything. This is the beauty of Islam. The issue of one Muslim, or the pain of one Muslim, becomes the pain of another Muslim. And it's solely based on them being Muslim that they're feeling this pain. And, that's the way it's supposed to be, is we're supposed to have those feelings. And there's yesterday in my Jummah, I was talking about the story of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, and the Yahud. There was many Yahud who lived in Medina, right? One of the Yahudis who lived in Medina, he was elderly, he was begging in the streets, right? Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu asked him, he's like, why are you begging? He's like, oh, I'm an elderly Yahudi man, I don't have any income, so I'm just begging so I can feed myself. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu takes him to the Bayt al-Mal, the public financial department, if that's what you can call it, the treasury. And he takes him to the administrator, and he's like, he's a Yahudi man, he's a Jewish man, he's paid his jizya his whole life. Why is he not being taken care of? Why is he out in the streets begging? And he said to him, he's like, you're never going to beg again. We're going to take care of you now. So the concern of a Muslim is a concern of everybody, regardless of religion. Like when the Pakistani floods happened, when Muslim organizations went to Pakistan, which are a majority of the organizations that work there, they didn't say, okay, well, you're Hindu and you're Christian, so we're not going to give you packages of food. No, they gave everybody food, because the worry and the concern and the pain of a Muslim, and the worry and the concern of a non-Muslim, is the concern of a Muslim. So this is the main thing. It becomes a universal concern. So all of our, I applaud, and if they don't like clapping, I give them a lot of credit for our white shuyukh for being able to speak out, although the tides are probably against them from their own community for speaking out for this cause. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Asad.
Rob, are you crying?
I have something in my eye, but I should be crying. Not because of what you said. What you said was beautiful. I'm crying tears of joy, or tears of beauty. But yeah, no, I mean the white shuyukh, I mean they're doing what they can, and they're facing an enormous backlash. But I like the see, the thing is, I don't know, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Michael? Anything you wanted to add to what Asad said? So
Go
no?
ahead.
Okay, so you do see, like, now especially in the social media world, the dissident right is now, I guess, not trying to ally with, but like start a conversation with Muslims on social media because of this conflict. As you know, well, for what people, a lot of Muslims don't know this, but the right, in the West is divided into two factions: the anti-Islam establishment right, like your Jordan Petersons and your Ben Shapiro's and whatnot. They're the ones who have all the media coverage. They can, basically control all the narrative. And the dissident right, who agree with the Muslims on this issue, they've been mostly deplatformed. Now Keith Woods, who is on the side of the Muslims on this particular issue, he actually made it onto the Dean show. I don't know if
who is Keith Woods? Could you tell me a little bit? I don't know who he is.
Keith Woods is an Irish. Yeah, so Keith Woods is an Irish nationalist. He did a show with Edward Dutton and Richard Spencer for a while. Then he kind of went his own way. He is, I guess you could say, on the traditionalist right. His views on Islam are fairly positive. And he's against, like the neoconservative wars in the Middle East and the invasion of Gaza. But since he's on the right, he's also against mass immigration to the West, or specifically Europe. So there are a lot of people on the right who hold these opinions, and they see the refugees who are coming into Europe, it's because of these atrocities that are happening, the oppression that's happening in Muslim countries. So obviously, the Muslims are not going to agree with everything that Keith says. But in any case, Eddie from the Dean Show invited Keith on. I watched the whole thing. And now, I mean, there are other people on the distant right that have been interviewed by Muslims before, specifically Daniel. And at first, I guess they didn't really know about what their politics are like. So I think Keith was speaking a little bit about his politics near the end, and Eddie just didn't know what to say. So I just because I think about what kind of position should Muslims take on this, because we can't specifically quote unquote ally with these people because they they don't want refugees going to Europe. I'm looking at more from a humanitarian perspective, and that we don't have the Muslim countries themselves. They're ruled by people who are not willing to take in a lot of refugees. There are already many refugees already living in Turkey and Jordan, and the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, this is going to be a humanitarian crisis, and a lot of these Gazans are unfortunately. I know that Israel is blockaded right now, but there may be a point in time when they're going to be stuck in this situation and they're going to have to go somewhere. And I was talking to Abu American, and a couple of weeks ago, and we agree that we prefer at-home solutions. We want
There's a guy named Abu American.
Yes, he's an African American brother living in Germany. I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He's a very cool brother. Yeah, he what I'm trying to get at is that, we want to be able to have, we want to be able to alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters. And we don't want to come off as people who, say these people shouldn't go here or there. They're forced into the situation. We didn't create this problem. But at the same time, we have to think of what from a humanitarian perspective, at least think about what is the best way forward for them. And it's a terrible situation with the refugee camps, existing refugee camps in Turkey and Jordan due to the Syrian refugee crisis. So I mean, what I'm trying to get at is you can't really ally with these people who are on the right. But if you take a position that we want what's best for everybody, I think that people are going to start to see the Muslim side that we're not about replacing people's cultures, that Islam is universal, and that even though what we're suggesting is very pie in the sky in terms of a convert community, it's kind of a micro solution. Even if however small that community is, it's more about the idea. It's more about the idea that that Islam is for everybody, that you have a place, in this ummah, and that people at the end of the day, even though Muslims have different political affiliations and whatnot, we do care about each other. So I think that we're coming a long way as an ummah. I think as Assad was talking about, a couple of decades ago when, a Palestinian protest turned into basically a protest for Arab nationalism. I don't agree with that, but I mean, I do feel that now that we're becoming more of a global ummah, we're starting to get into the right direction. That we all come from different cultures, but at the same time, we're all united as one ummah. So I know I've been blabbering on for quite a bit, but what? Let's get into I don't know, I don't know.
I would add some thoughts. I think, but if we might rear into the talk about protests and that kind of thing. But I would just have a few points on politics that I don't think we mentioned. One, now certainly we have, when we're talking about neoconservatives like war hawks, versus people who just don't want to go to war for another 20 years in the Middle East. That I think that's maybe an important point to bring up, because look, I mean, it's like, why is the United States so beholden to to just going back into the Middle East, you could say. And of course, as Muslims and anyone would want any of these other countries to be places that people want to stay and want and flourish in, and maybe they're even places that we would want to visit or go to and support and retire in, or something like that. We could get creative, but just to come back, we don't want these humanitarian crises that result in mass immigration anyway. So I think there's plenty to agree on that. And I think we have to. We can't just pretend it's like 1992 again, and it's like, well, that Middle East, like, maybe we should do something there. It's like, we've had like too many conflicts there, and we've just lost a lot of money, even just as Americans, just doing that, and it's just crap. It's a lose-lose for all of us here. And I mean, we can say, like, between the three of us, we're not like affiliated with Hamas, we're not affiliated with Hezbollah, or we're not part of like an Iranian paramilitary organization or something like that. We're not Houthis, or like we're not ISIS either. And we're like, I think probably, and you guys could say something on that too, but we tend to criticize without any solution. So I think part of the problem with condemning even something like Hamas, which is I don't know too much about, frankly, but that's apparently the governing body there. So what else are you going to put there? It's just going to be Israel or something, and or it's going to be something even crazier. This is just repeated over and over again. This is what we saw. We overthrew the Shah in Iran, and then we're helping these things out, and then something more extreme comes along, and it's just always like this. I think probably what's been the most beneficial development has been when people are able to receive the humanitarian help that they need. They're able to build connections with their neighboring countries and develop agreements and form these alliances, and then they're able to actually improve the situations in those countries through like pressure of local countries and that kind of thing. I think that's that should be the obvious position, I think, for Muslims, for the dissident right, for left-leaning centrists. I think that sounds like the more obvious position to take. The only holdouts here are people that are maybe they're on the bankroll of like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon or something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
No, I agree with you, Michael. And even I think about this, because all these things that have been happening, even even for American Jews, like they're probably thinking like this is just fomenting anti-Semitism. And, it's, like, if anything, it's making the situation far worse for us. And, people who are on the other side think that, this is like something that, that the Jewish community is like a monolith on. And, even they're not even afraid to speak out themselves. However, even assuming that, that's only like that's only a minority that think that way. Still, there's still people of the book, and among them are people who, if you gave them an entire hoard of gold, they would still readily give it back to you with no interest. But the powers that be are just so powerful that they don't want anyone opposing this whatsoever. Like, I saw some videos of Israelis in Israel who are commenting on the events that took place, and they're saying that, like, like it's physically impossible for Hamas to do what they did. It's just they can't even how do you practice paragliding, let alone becoming an expert paraglider in Gaza, and make your way out of like the most surveyed area in the world. And and they're starting to see that, like, the Likud party does not have our best interest in mind, because they've created such a complete powder keg. And I'm not an expert on public opinion in Israel. That a minority opinion does exist, but even they must be some of them that's just like, yeah, this is we've just dug ourselves a hole that's so deep that I don't see like another way out of it. But yeah, I think people, especially in America, are just getting fed up with these policies that have made things exponentially worse for people. I will say that like, one thing we have to be clear on is that I'm against any form of involuntary repatriation. I think that that's inhumane to do to somebody who's gone through terrible experiences, such as war and famine, and like anything like that. I mean, like we said before, like the suffering they're going is just on such a grand scale, like compared to us, it's just not even comparable. But I do think that we should be looking at outside the box solutions. That is a win-win for everybody. And that's why I think that we should keep talking about issues related to Islam for Europeans, because it is a win-win. It solves many of the problems for Western countries. And at the end of the day, like you said, these horrible events that occurred, they're not our fault to begin with. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all the Muslims living in the Muslim world, and give them safety and security. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have our hearts united as one. But in any case, I don't know if you want to spin off and maybe talk about like a slightly different topic. Mohammed Hijab will be on Piers Morgan. Now, I think it's good that we have actually someone now who is going to be able to speak the truth on this, and debunk a lot of the claims coming from the establishment media. May Allah strengthen Mohammed Hijab, and like make his speech the most beneficial to the ummah. I hope that this was not like a 4D chess move by the establishment media to put on Mohammed Hijab, because they think that he's going to they're trying to bait him in to make him lose his temper. I mean, mashallah, he's a wonderful brother, but I don't know if they had some sort of ulterior motive. It seems like it's almost too good to be true. Asad, did you want to comment on that? Or,
well, Rob, actually, I mean, he kind of was on the Piers Morgan show for about 20 seconds.
They showed a clip.
If you saw a video he uploaded recently, there was Piers Morgan showed a clip of him responding to Ben Shapiro, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought the clip was pretty good, but you know, it's good to, I guess, just hear like the alternate perspective anyway. That sometimes just uh you know, people are just kind of like, it's kind of hard to take a position that you don't hear anyone else taking.
Yes.
So it's good to just kind of get some opinion out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I gotta hand it to him. He's super brave and you know, far braver than I. I mean, he's you know, may Allah help him with you know, with given the best opportunity. It's got to be difficult. I mean, even when I was on the Ed Dutton show, like on the Jolly Heretic, like, you know, his reach is, you know, far smaller, but still, when you're in the hot seat like that, it is not easy. I mean, you know, you, especially when you have all, you know, all these questions coming at you, and you know, you have to respond to them, you know, within seconds to give the best possible response. You know, to give the Muslim side. I mean, and that when I was on, it was the questions were coming out one by one, you know, and I had time to respond to each and every one of them. But you know, I don't know, like a lot of these media things, they end up being kind of like pre-planned, and you know, like you really have to tease apart the way that they frame these questions. But you know, may Allah, you know, give Muhammad Hijab the best possible opportunity when he goes on to the show. But yeah,
I think Piers Morgan had some lady journalist on yesterday, Grace Blakely, and I was reading the comments as we were talking right now, and a lot of people are like, "We're very glad she came on." I haven't watched the interview, but somebody wrote in the comments, it's like, "I'm glad Grace brought up the whole history and not just the last 2 weeks." So might need to see what she has to say, because apparently it says that, you know, she sort of gave Piers, like, you know, a little bit of a defense. I don't know what side, but you know, it's seemingly more so, I guess, the Palestinian side of things. And so, like, for example, Patrick Bet-David, you know, he's been doing the past week now on Israel, Palestine, and all the people he's been bringing on have majority been pro-Israel. I spoke with one of my friends, and I was like, you know, he was on Russian Times yesterday or something, my friend, and I told him, I was like, he's from America, he's a lawyer, and I told him, I was like, you need to talk with Eddie and let Eddie talk with Patrick and get you on there to talk about, you know, the whole issue, right? The whole issue. Like, look, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does something wrong, right? If, you know, somebody does an attack and some innocent people die and it's in the hands of Palestinians, right? It's wrong, right? Somebody innocent dies, right? If Palestinian people die at the hands of the IDF, that's also wrong. People have to acknowledge that, right? A lot of people have a very hard time acknowledging anything, right? And then there's obviously, I've been sharing some of those videos of what is it called? The Torah Judaism, where
yes,
those Jewish individuals who have Palestinian flags hanging inside their houses are getting beat up, getting beat up. Like Tyler and me were watching one of the videos, and it was just like, there was a comical nature to it, because as they're getting beat up, another Jew jumps onto the stairs to protect the Palestinian flag, and he starts getting beat up, and they're just getting beat up right and left, and we're like, this is like comical at a certain point. And you know, so there's many different sides. Politics isn't like a straight playing field, right? It's not like a baseball field that, you know, what you see in front of you is what's happening. There's like, it's like golf, right? Golf has all these elements under the grass, you know, that you don't see, right? Even in hockey, you have like the whole mechanism to keep the ice cold, right? So there's a lot going on in the background that we don't know. So, you know, in politics and stuff like that. So when we talk, us three were talking, we're just talking very basic, very simple, that, hey, Palestinian people, the individuals, we're not talking about the politicians, we're not talking about the politics. They have been wronged. They have been deprived of their any human rights. They've been treated very badly. All we're asking for is for them to be able to live like human beings. That's all it is. And have basic necessities, have, you know, food to be able to cook and eat, have water to drink, be able to lead very normal lives, right? If they want to use the internet, that's basically human right now. Use the internet, be able to go on social media, whatever. Just have those basic human rights. They want to go fishing, right? When you go to sleep at night and you wake up in the morning, the house that your family has owned for 100 years, you should be able to wake up on it, not wake up the next morning and somebody's like, hey, I just came from, New Jersey. I've been told by the government that this is my house now. You guys go, go kick stones or something, right? That's all most people are asking for. It's for people to just be given some dignity and humanity so that they can lead normal lives and they're not worried about, where they're going to eat from, whether they're going to be alive next week or whether their kids are going to be arrested for, out of anger throwing a rock or something. It's basically all it is. I think Rob's adjusting his camera. The cat's messing with him.
Yeah, it just comes back to something else, and the Prophet said, "La taghdab," right? We can't don't be angry. So we can't just, we don't want to just get angry either. Which kind of comes back to what you were first saying. So all these things happening, we don't want to make things worse in our own lives, I guess. But I it's just a thought. But anyway, you're welcome to continue, or I guess Rob's muted here, but
Rob, you gonna talk to us?
Yeah.
Well, what I just did was so what happened was I was not muted, but I clicked on a window and I had two things going on at the same time. So I'm trying to work that out. So right now I'm hearing two multiple voices of the same stream, and I have like
Okay.
brain overload right now.
All right.
So
Well, we don't hear it.
Savvy, as you know.
We don't hear it. We don't hear it. We don't hear it.
Yeah.
We don't hear it.
I'm like
trying to figure out how I can get. Oh, I see
Echo,
it now. I see it now.
Did the cat mess with the Rob so much he can't even talk anymore?
I see it now. Okay, I'm okay. Yeah, okay, I'm back. Okay. Wow, I had like 2-3 streams, two voices going on at the same time, even my own voice at one point. So sorry about that, guys. But from what I heard, yes, we should not, getting angry is not going to solve the problem. And we should be cognizant of what's going on. Like we should think globally and act locally. And like concentrate again, you do what you can with what's in your power, but also, like you said, like turn to the Quran and the Sunnah and like look to the Hadith and the Sirah and what is the best way for us to respond as Muslims. And like you said, I mean, like a lot of it is internal, just realizing that that Allah is in control of all things, and that we should turn to Him, and the dua is the most important thing that we can do right now. And that's very important, and it absolutely does have an effect. So, and then on the practical grounds, I mean, yeah, concentrate on things that are important in our communities, and always keep what's going on around the world. You still want to keep it in mind.
So Rob, there's some people in the comment section on YouTube. Somebody is sending salams to your cat. And then there's another brother he was talking about. He's asking, I think more so, do you guys have any sources on Latin American Muslims inside Latin America? Do you have any suggestions for that? I have suggestions, but do you have any suggestions for that?
That's really not my field of expertise. Okay. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
So if you want, for Latin American shuyukh, there's a sheikh by the name of he's a Medina graduate. His name is Rafa Baraz, I believe. You can look him up. There's a lot of Muslims in Panama. Majority of them are from India, but there's a lot of now Muslims who are coming from within the circles of Muslim, within the Latin American circles in those areas. There's a community which Rob talks about. What is it called?
The Tzotzil Muslims.
Tzotzil Muslims who are on the border of Mexico and Guatemala. There's actually a very large community there, and they're economically challenged people because of the fact that they are Muslim. There's a lot of Muslims in Peru. There's a lot of Muslims in Venezuela, in Argentina and Brazil. There's actually a lot of Muslims in Brazil. Actually, it was there's actually a lot of Lebanese people there where they have their own country clubs. in Brazil, and so they have their own little community. Obviously Brazil being Portuguese speaking, there's actually a lot of Muslims in these countries. When you leave Mexico, as you're leaving Mexico, you start seeing more Muslim communities in the other parts of Latin America. If you want, in Puerto Rico, there's actually a decent Muslim community. You can look up a sheikh by the name of Imam Wesley Lebron. Then there's Imam Daniel Abdullah Hernandez. There's Imam Rios. These guys, they're Latin American. I believe they're the 3 Puerto Rican imams. So they speak Spanish, and they cover Islamic topics. There's actually, I believe, this weekend is the Latin American Muslim retreat sort of thing going on. And there were, I don't know where it is. It might be in Chicago or somewhere. So there's things like this happening. I know that Sheikh Kumi, who's Uruguayan, okay. I'm not really sure who that is. But alhamdulillah, whoever you can find, and you find them to be, in the Quran and the Sunnah, just follow them. And if somebody's Spanish speaking, or from Latin America, obviously doesn't mean they're just Spanish speaking. They could be English speaking, they could be the Portuguese speaking, or they could be Spanish speaking. Just find whoever is good. But obviously there's a lot of guys online now that put out very good content, very based content, very basic content that everybody needs. And I give a class every Thursday, and in that class on Thursdays, one of the things which I say is most Muslims, from a Muslim perspective, are teenagers when it comes to learning about Islam. And why do I say that? Teenagers are the people who we latch our hopes onto. That teenagers are the ones who are like, okay, if they get the right tutelage and the right teachings right now, when they get to 18, they're going to make a decision that's going to impact their life. So the ages between 13 to 18 is where you're really teaching them. So for all Muslims, we're also at that same age when it comes to Islamic learning and teaching. So if we get it right, we'll be able to graduate to university, be able to do better. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for, I know Brother Michael has to get going, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Michael.
Inshallah, we'll see you. Jazakallah khair for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.
Giving us your time, valuable time. MashaAllah, Michael is a very well-educated guy, extremely well-educated. Rob is, mashallah, a very well-educated guy, more so than me. Both of you guys are more educated than me.
Well, in secular matters for me.
In secular matters, yeah.
I wanna learn more of the deen. I want to take that opportunity to, at least have some sort of formal Islamic education. A lot of converts, they're starting out at preschool. So a lot of it is just learning Alif Ba, and learning the very, very, very basics. Masajid do have programs and everything, and you're right, a lot of, for Muslim teenagers, they're like teenagers where they're learning it. But for us, it's an even more basic level. So, but I think even Islamic education, I mean, there are people who should be in Muslim communities that become imams, become alims, and have a large base of Islamic knowledge and are studying Islam full time. Those people are absolutely necessary. But I do think that for the general Muslim public, they should at least be studying Islam part time. So at least they know at least the very basics. So.
I mean, I think the connection with the masjid or the musalla or whatever is close to you is very essential and very important. So a person has a spiritual playground so that they can go there and sit and just be there, right? Mm-hmm. At airports now they put playgrounds, and the reason they put it is so parents can sit and eat their lunch and their kids can play on the playground, right? So each and every Muslim person needs that spiritual playground. So where people who are Muslim for many years, who are born Muslim or something like that, can sit there and you can play on the playground, and then these elders from the community can tell you in a very nice manner that, hey, you might be making this mistake. How about you reassess this position, right? And have both sides have an understanding that we're looking out for each other, right? Yeah. So, when it comes to obviously, I don't know if we've deviated off topic or if we're on topic anymore. I don't even know. But, obviously I was just trying to address the questions or the comments from the brother, which I think are very important, that, if we have a movement like, like Islam for Europeans, which alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, brothers. It's a very good thing. It brings the brothers together. And, anytime any person from a European background becomes Muslim, if they're facing challenges, you guys have the tool set or the toolkit to assist them because of your experiences.
Mhm.
So when it comes to somebody who's from a Latin American background, and if they don't have that experience or they don't know who to reach out for that community, Islam for Europeans, I believe on the YouTube page or Facebook page or whatever you brothers have, you should have some resources. If you are a
Yeah.
Latin American Muslim, this is a good resource. If you're a Black American, or I don't know, American, or a Muslim who comes from an African, I don't know, what is it called? I know in America we call it Black Americans, but I think for Canadians, what would you call it?
Black Canadians.
Well,
But yeah, there's definitely overlap for all converts. I mean, like
Yeah.
converts, because like, whatever background you're from, being a convert to Islam, you understand a lot of the challenges that they face. So you have to look at it as like a Venn diagram. But then,
Yeah.
there are problems specific that are specific and unique to each community, right? So,
Yeah.
like the brother from Brazil, I think he was speaking, he was talking about how in Brazil, like the Muslim community there, they don't really interact with the greater Brazilian community. They don't even have a lot of materials in Portuguese or any material, like all of it's in English. So they don't have the resources necessary.
I mean,
and they
did
haven't,
somebody reach out to you?
like when I converted.
No. I'm saying, did somebody reach out to you with
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes. The
Well, I mean,
brothers.
if they can translate some of the content into Brazilian, or we can find it for them, if they can translate it, I can have digital content made for them that they can print locally.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
that
can
would
offer
work.
that.
That would work. Like, eventually we want to, Islam for Europeans, we want to start making pamphlets.
Okay.
And we want to, be able to have that so people can just print it off and, just give dawah, to their local community and have the resources necessary if they need it. Obviously, like you said, you need a masjid. I mean, like, we still want to have the first Islam for Europeans musalla, even if it's just like a shack or, like a 10 by 10 shed.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I mean, like, I'm sure we could lobby for it. But the thing is, yeah, I mean, and all Muslims would be invited there. We would just be running the joint.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think there's a very flawed mindset where people think there's something wrong if a certain ethnic group aside from Pakistanis are Arab run a masjid.
Right, I know. Like, you can't, like the Darul Uluma I was telling you about in Chatham. They're not.
Yeah.
We can't ask them to start wearing a suit and a tie. We can't ask them to start serving burgers and fries for iftar. They're going to run
I
it
think
the
we
way.
already do that. I think we already do the burgers and fries, and I think the majority of Muslims are. I'm going to try to use very nice language. The suit and tie perspective, my people need to be able to also acknowledge their own cultural background and be able to wear their own clothing at the same time.
Oh, I
feel
agree.
Comfortable. My people have absolutely abandoned their own clothing. They're just, some of them just act like brown white people now, and there's no reason to do that.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this. I mean, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because even around the Arab community, I remember I was talking to an Arab imam that's here in London, and he said that the loss of iman among like young Arabs is tied into a loss of speaking Arabic. So they're just speaking English anymore. They're just speaking English. A lot of them don't speak Arabic or very broken Arabic. If you have, let's say 100, like non-Muslims in London, from whatever background, they're English speaking. They all convert to Islam, and they flood this masjid that's predominantly Arab. That's not going to solve the issues of the Arab community. That's going to make it worse because you have all these people who don't speak any Arabic. And you need to have that. The Arab community needs that space, to allow that, to help their kids bring the Arabic language back. So we have our own issues that we're dealing with, and yes, there's some overlap, but it's very different than what the Arab community is facing. And like you said, like the loss of culture is tied into a loss of religion. So instead of, this kind of like environment where it's like you have converts like dressing, their LARPing is like another culture and like totally alien to their people. And then on the other end, go ahead.
So I agree with you that if a white individual becomes a Muslim in America, for example, right, they shouldn't immediately like start wearing a kurta shalwar all the time or a thobe all the time. If they feel very comfortable in that, it's a personal choice. But but like it shouldn't be like a mandate that anytime a white person becomes a Muslim, that this is the dress code now, that you must be dressed up like this. Like one of the things I've commented about John, which I actually like, is every Jummah he wears something different. And yesterday he was wearing a kurta shalwar for the first time, and I had never seen him wear that. And it was kind of interesting, seeing him wear a kurta shalwar. He's never done that. So he wears like a different, one week he'll wear a suit. The next week he'll wear a suit and a tie and a kufi. The next week he'll wear like an African dashiki. The following week he'll wear a thobe, like a Yemeni style thobe. The following week, now kurta shalwar. The following week he may give a khutbah in like a pair of slacks and a dress shirt, things like that. He changes it up, but he's sort of like bringing in that community atmosphere for everybody in this community is from a different background. So he's sort of like, I acknowledge everybody and I accept everybody.
He needs it as like a necessity because he's an imam and he wants everyone to feel included. So I get that. I think for your average Westerner though, like for the people who do convert to Islam and on top of that end up joining a Muslim community where they're seen in a mosque, that's a very thin slice of converts. And they're already in situations where they're able to pull that off. Maybe their family had no problem with their conversion, or maybe they're living independently, or they have the economic resources, or they're very multicultural, like extroverted people, so they fit right in. But for your average Westerner who may be interested in Islam, that's very difficult for them to pull off. It's enough for a lifetime to give them to pray 5 times a day and do all the things that are required of them, while assimilating into a different culture. So
I think we've had plenty of discussions on the main aspect of modesty in dress, right?
Yes.
And if you look at a imam like Tom, right? Tom right now is my go-to example because I love the guy. He's amazing, right? I met him, I believe, like once or twice now, and he's just such a nice guy, right? He wears loose, longer shirts, right? Loose, longer shirts. His pants are looser, right? And he has a kufi on, and it's a very different kufi. It's not like a kufi you see most people wearing. And when you see him from afar, you immediately know, okay, this guy is a Muslim, right? But he doesn't look foreign at all.
Yeah. I mean, if you tried that in my hometown, you would be laughed at.
I don't. For what reason?
Oh, I mean, like Islam is just basically no Muslims in Amherstburg.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Maybe a couple, and then converting to Islam in and of itself is such a huge jump.
Yeah.
I think people look at that and they go, okay, well, if you convert to Islam, I would have to wear this, and I know that's not the intention, but that's because if you look at like Sikhs, all the Sikhs have to wear like the turban, right? So it's the way people look at Sikhs.
I mean, but like what Tom is wearing is, it's very like, there's nothing like, it's like a loose long dress shirt that you could buy at like Walmart.
Yes.
And and his pants are pants you could buy at Walmart. Do you watch any college football?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know the coach of the Michigan Wolverines?
No, he's
Jim Harbaugh.
Yes,
Joe
Jim
or
Harbaugh,
Jim or whichever, John or Jim, whichever one.
Yeah.
One is the coach of the Baltimore Ravens, your favorite team, and then the other one is the Michigan Wolves.
Nice try.
And then the other one is the Michigan coach who used to be the 49ers coach, right?
Yes.
The Harbaugh, what's it called? Which happened like
the Harbaugh Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago now. But so he tells everybody, my uniform or outfit is from Walmart. It's like $15, you can get the whole outfit. And very simple guy. He wears the same thing every week. So within Muslims, wearing something nice doesn't mean you have to break the bank, and wearing something nice doesn't mean, generally speaking, that you have to either dress up in a thobe and a fancy kufi from overseas or something, nor does it mean you have to dress up in a suit and a tie. Just wear whatever the best you can get, and it should be modest. And and the thing about it is, with most scholars and ulama, they're like, if you're wearing a shirt, the shirt should come down a little bit further than where we're used to wearing a shirt. Most men unfortunately, wear the shirts where it only covers the belly button. So when they go into sujood, the moon and the stars are showing to everybody. So, we want to avoid that. So you want your shirt to extend beyond your sort of like, where your privates are. So when you do go into sujood, you're still fully covered.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we had the money and resources, Assad, we would definitely sell Islam for European swag. Like the blue and white is, I guess our official colors. So I mean, we would definitely.
That's a good thought.
Yeah,
but it's not a necessity.
It's not a necessity.
So you could, that's what I'm getting at is you could easily be wearing something which it's modest and literally spend not more than $25.
Yes, true. Very true, very true.
You could buy a long shirt, go to Walmart. Honestly speaking, I wear Walmart shirts, right? Buy a shirt from Walmart, a longer shirt, for like $12, and you could probably get a pair of like khakis for like 15 or something. And after taxes, Canadian taxes are higher, but American taxes, like $30 for a whole outfit. And it's you won't look like you just walked out of like a fashion show, but you don't need to.
Right.
And if somebody chooses to wear a kufi, which a lot of Muslim scholars who are even converts, sort of like suggest towards it, because they're like, okay, everybody has a beard these days, right? So now the next thing is having a kufi on, right, where people can sort of identify.
Well, you want to be, identify yourself as a Muslim. So I mean, like, I mean, that's I think that's what we're getting at here. So yeah, I understand where that's coming from. Yeah, like beards are they're, a lot of Zoomers, non-Muslim Zoomers, they definitely wear, they definitely have beards now. The beard is back in fashion and the mustache is out. So it's completely reversed from 20, 30 years ago. But in any case, I think we'll end it for today, Assad. It was good to hear from you again. Please subscribe to Assad. He's got his sweater on. He's got Street Paths.
Well, you can't see the name though. It's all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, I gotta. Like I said, I need a hoodie. I need an eye-free hoodie. It's exactly.
Inshallah, I got you.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much for everything, Assad. We're going to cut the live feed for today. But please subscribe to the Straight Path Podcast and Islam for Europeans. This has been Robert and Assad and Michael from Beef, Bacon, and Eggs. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Right. Okay, I'm gonna end how do I end the stream now? Because like
I don't know.
I usually have that window open so I can close it. But I gotta see how I can end the stream without still having you on. You just see here. I go to the go live thing and then I just go to end stream, I'm assuming. This is like all this newfangled technology that I'm just not used to. In fact, we're probably recording this as we speak. End stream.
Yeah, you're still live.
End. Good. Stream has ended. Okay, we did it.